World Series Game 1, Yankees and the Dodgers. Wanted to talk to my buddy, my colleague on Yes, and also one of the voices of Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, David Cone, five-time world champion. David, it's Michael, Don, and Peter. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Good to be on with you guys, as always.
I'm so pumped up for this World Series. Even if I didn't have a dog in the fight being, one of the announcers on Yes, I think this is just a great series for baseball. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think, we've been dreaming about this, Michael, for a while. And the times that we've been able to do some games, really, that first series you and I did, I think A-Rod was in the booth for us for a few innings out in L.A. When the Yankees wore the black uniforms.
Yep.
You can't forget that, right? That really gave us the first inkling of how special this could be, this matchup, that how hungry the fan base is for it, how excited both fan bases get for it. And it's coming along at the right time in the sport, too. Major League Baseball needs this. They need the ratings. We both know in our industry, there's streaming, there's linear TV, there's cable TV problems in some of the local, national, regional networks. So obviously this can break new ground in terms of ratings worldwide as well when you factor in Japan.
Now, the one thing that got the Dodgers here, especially through the Mets, was just an unbelievable bullpen where Roberts is able to just match up. Lindor faced 9 different relievers during the course of the 6-game series. Is that sustainable in this series against the Yankees?
Great question. That was going to be one of my top points in terms of what we've seen in this postseason and what we're starting to see with more data is the more times you see relievers, the less effective they are as well. I mean, we've known this for starters the third time through the order. We've seen the numbers across the board. It's kind of hard to deny. Outside of the great pitchers, maybe a Garrett Cole, that get better the third time through the order, but relievers too. So that's going to be a big deal. But Dodgers are going to have to do a bullpen game probably in this series, in Game 3 or Game 4. And it's going to be interesting to see how that works out for them, and then how many times these Yankee hitters see these Dodger relievers. And by the time we get to Game 5, 6, and 7, that could have an impact.
Now, on the flip side of that, David, along those lines, I think it puts a lot of pressure on Cole and Rodon to turn in a 6-inning performance, because you don't expect you're going to get that from Schmidt, and you don't expect that you're going to get that from Heel. So if they can give you a 6-inning performance each of the first 2 starters, that means you only have to get 9 outs out of the bullpen, because the Yankee bullpen, which was great in both series, they might get exposed by the Dodgers as well.
Yeah, it's another great point. I think that I could not agree more that Garrett Cole in Game 1 becomes really pronounced, and then Rodon too in Game 2. And the traditional wisdom has always been in a 7-game series, the road team can split on the road in the first 2 games. Then you sort of steal back home field advantage. I think that's the same in any sport. Hockey is the same thing in a 7-game series. So, that Game 1 is big. Rodon against the lefties, against Ohtani is a big matchup. Can he shut them down? And, if the Yankees can get out of there and win Game 1, they kind of steal the home field advantage, and Garrett Cole makes a statement. And back at where he grew up, don't forget, some of those guys that are from Southern California, Giancarlo Stanton, Garrett Cole, those guys get pumped up to play in L.A. This means everything to them. They've been waiting their whole lives for this opportunity.
Layoff hurt or help?
I think it helps because of the bullpens. Everybody needs some extra rest. All the arms need a reset button. There's no substitute in terms of recovery for some extra rest for these guys. And so that's a big deal. I think both teams will be fine with that. It still comes down to, can the Yankees leverage their advantage because they're more healthy in their starting rotation than the Dodgers? Because the Dodgers, as I said before, they're short in their starting rotation. They have great relievers. They could still get away with it, a bullpen game. But that's a potential advantage to the Yankees, especially, as Michael said, if they get off to a good start and get Game 1 under their belt with Garrett Cole, their ace.
We're talking with David Cone, 5-time world champion here on the Michael K. Show. I think the top 4 in each lineup is comparable. I'm not going to go one by one, but, they scare you, the top 4 in each lineup. But the bottom 5, the Dodgers had a much better series against the Mets than the bottom 5 of the Yankees against the Guardians. Now, you can't blame it on Volpe. I think Volpe looked terrific, and even Rizzo had an OPS around 950. But I think a lot falls in this series, David, on Jazz Chisholm and Verdugo and Wells to hit. They have not hit, and I think that might be an important part of this series.
It's even more important, Michael, when you factor in whether the Dodgers on the health side, we talk about their starting rotation, their bullpen's a little banged up too. Is Vesia going to be ready? Is he going to be part of it or not? He was injured in the last round. He's one of those left-handed relievers that's really hard to hit. Really a tough left-on-left matchup, a real riding fastball, good stuff all the way around. So that even bears in mind, in terms of the lefties and the Yankees, to your point, Michael. Yeah, Verdugo, of course. Chisholm, of course. Chisholm's got to have his whole athleticism on display. Get on base, steal some bases, let that base running component really come to play here. That's what separates him, his athleticism and being able to get on base.
Yeah, it seems to me that I'm not saying they can't win this series without Chisholm, but it certainly seems like if he was to be the guy who they got when he first showed up here, it certainly makes me love their odds.
I agree completely. And when you think about especially the power right-handed relievers that the Dodgers have that could possibly bury Giancarlo Stanton or be tough for Judge one time through the order, whether that's Kopech, who, throws 101 miles an hour. Those guys are really, really difficult on right-handed batters. And we see the righty batters, they feast on mistakes. If you make mistakes to Giancarlo, he's going to lose it in this time of year. The same with Aaron Judge. He's no different. So that puts even more emphasis when you've got Blake Trinan on the mound or Kopech or any number of Evan Phillips, those power righties. You really need your lefties. That's where Jazz Chisholm and Verdugo are going to come in handy.
And the Dodgers,
for that matter.
It seems like by design, David, are designed to get you to swing at pitches out of the strike zone. Yankees don't do that. So what's the challenge of these pitchers? Do you now have to come in, or do you just continue to be patient and hope that they swing at balls?
Yeah, it's early in the count. It's attack mode. It's strike one. It's the race to strike two. When you fall behind in the count to these type of hitters, that makes you even more leery to kind of get some of the plate, as they say, with your pitches, no matter what pitch you're throwing. If you're trying to throw a strike and I can get a little more of the plate, you can't do that 2-0 or 2-1, or if you're consistently behind in the count. So I know it sounds like a cliche, but the only option is to go the other way and get into complete attack mode against these great hitters and try to get on top of them any way you can, whether it's 0-1 or 0-2, and then try to go to work from there. And both sides are that way. Both lineups are very patient. These are very similar teams. This is a very even matchup, and they're very similar philosophy, power hitting, power pitching. It's going to come down to the familiarity of the bullpens and how often you see these guys and whether they wear down after Game 7.
All right, so the MVP of the ALCS was Stanton. He's been phenomenal in postseason action. Have you ever in your life, you were a baseball fan before you were a baseball player, ever seen a player that could look so hopelessly overmatched for a long stretch of time and then get locked in like Giancarlo? I mean, sometimes we're in the booth in May and we look at each other. He's swinging at a pitch and he misses it by 2 feet, and we look at each other like, what's happening? And then he looks like you can't get him out in the postseason. Is there anybody even approximates that?
I don't think I can come up with a comparable, Michael. I haven't seen anybody do this sort of thing. I mean, we've seen players get hot in postseason and won postseason, but not continually. Every time he gets into postseason play, this monster shows up at the plate, and he gets locked in like the Terminator and just starts not missing his pitch. If you hang one pitch to him, sometimes he only sees one good pitch to hit. He doesn't miss it. The only other guy I saw kind of like that, but that was for the whole season, was Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was that kind of hitter all the time.
Right.
Every at bat, you would see one pitch to hit a week and hit it in the upper deck and just not miss it. So, I think that really is what surprises me. That's when it's hard to measure clutch. We all go through this in sports. Who's clutch? Who's not? Are you just a good player? He shows up. Good players are good players. Well, there's something about focus. There's something about somebody who can block out the distractions and raise their game in these type of games. And Giancarlo Stanton has proved that he's one of those guys.
Now, I've said this before on the air. I want to get your take on it. I think Stephen Vogt is probably the manager of the year in the American League. But it's beyond me when you've got a struggling Chisholm hitting behind him, why they continually pitch to Stanton. And even after Stanton did the damage, David, he kept saying, I do it 100 times. When Buck Showalter once told me, whenever anybody says that, they're lying. If it doesn't work out, why would you do it 100 times? Did you question when it was happening? Why are they pitching to Stanton here?
Yeah, my take on that, Michael, was that he put a little too much trust in his pitching staff.
Right.
that they knew that Stanton would chase and that he just saw, I'll picture it. He's not going to hang one. He's not going to do that. He's not going to leave that breaking ball over the middle of the plate with a 2-0 lead in the middle innings, the third time you're facing Stanton. So I think that he just put a little too much trust on his guy. Bybee got a little too careless, and instead of throwing that pitch down and away in the dirt and trying to get a chase, he hung it. And to Stanton's credit, he just did not miss it.
For guys like Judge and Stanton, veterans, great players, but they've never played in the World Series before, what's that moment going to be like? Is it just another game, or are they going to feel it on Friday?
You're definitely going to feel it. I mean, it's all around you. I mean, I didn't play in a World Series at Dodger Stadium, but I certainly played in the League Championship Series, and I remember walking off the mound and looking over the dugout, and I saw Frank Sinatra, and it just floored me. I mean, the level of interest. I mean, in the 80s, that was the guy, right? I mean, you saw Frank Sinatra. You just feel it. You see the stars come out. It's a different level of anticipation. It's a different level of scrutiny. Every pitch, just you feel the pressure of every single pitch. If somebody walks with 2 outs in the 5th inning, and the crowds go nuts. I mean, that does not happen in a regular season game. So a ball, you throw one pitch off the plate, and somebody gets up 1-0, the crowd goes nuts. I mean, the anticipation of the flow of the game is like nothing you've ever experienced.
And on that note, I'll never forget that Game 6 in '88. You were brilliant. Complete game. What was it, like with a 3-hitter, 5-hitter, whatever it was? And I mean, you lost Game 7, so it unfortunately gets forgotten. But as a Met fan, David, I won't forget that performance at Chavez Ravine.
Well, I appreciate that. That was the night Frank Sinatra was right there. I mean, it was one of those nights where you feel pressure, you feel stress like you've never felt before as a pitcher in the big leagues.
And you decided to do it your way, and it worked out. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Who do you like in the series?
I think the argument for the Yankees, I have tremendous respect for the Dodgers. They have experience. They've kind of been there. They've had more World Series experience recently. The Yankees, this is their tape. They've been waiting for this since 2017. We saw what Brian Cashman said, that these guys are still bitter. The core people that were there in 2017 and 2019 feel like they were robbed. Their time has come. So this is now. So the Yankees have the rallying cry. They've earned it. They're more healthy going into this in terms of playing their best baseball with most of their weapons ready to go right now. The Dodgers are short a little bit. Freddie Freeman's hobbled a bit. As I said before, there's other guys. Vesiel, is he going to be on or off? A big piece in their bullpen. They're going to have to do a bullpen game. I think that catches up with the Dodgers. I think that gives the Yankees an advantage, especially with Cole and Rodon going in Game 1 and Game 2. That's their leverage. That's where they really have to exert themselves in Game 1 and Game 2 and really make a statement with their two best pitchers. That sets the tone. That gives the Yankees the advantage. I'm saying the Yankees at 6.
Any thought on the passing of Fernando Valenzuela?
Just awful. Just awful. The guy was an absolute legend, a superhuman being, a sweetheart of a guy that was around the stadium, worked in broadcasting. You'd see him at Dodger Stadium. Always just one of those guys that was above and beyond, right? I mean, some guys just transcend the game because they mean so much to their country, or the way their highs were so high that they just really are cut above of everybody else. And that was Fernando. Fernando Mania was like nothing we'd ever seen before. Go back and look at his rookie year and his first 10 games, like all complete games. To start out his career as a Dodger, all 9 innings, all big strikeouts, throwing a screwball we'd never seen before. Just remarkable. The highs that he had were just so tremendous that he left an indelible mark on that franchise and on baseball, especially players from Mexico, the pride of Mexico that he wore so well.
Thank you so much, David. We always appreciate you popping on.
My pleasure, guys. Have a good one.
All right, that's David Cohn, my colleague.
David Cohn to you and me.
Coney, that's right. Now,
I love him.
Don't know if I saw this story in the LA Times. It kind of shocked me. Charlie Steiner has been the radio voice of the Dodgers for 20 years.
Yeah, I guess his last season with the Yankees was, when was it?
It might have been. It might have been Boone. It might
Yeah, that might have been the last the series.
Or maybe the next year, but he's missed the entire season. At first, it was because he had terrible lower back pain, and then they kept running tests, and he has multiple myeloma, which is a blood disease. and he missed the entire. And he says this really hurts him that he's going to miss this because he worked for the Yankees and 20 years with the Dodgers. But he said that he just got word the other day that he's in remission.
Awesome.
Which is completely awesome. But he said he's going to try. Can't walk yet. So he's in a wheelchair, but he's going to try to make it to the game tomorrow for a couple of innings. But he's been in such pain that he wasn't able to climb the steps in his home to get to his bedroom. So he had to bring the bed. He had to have people bring the bed downstairs because he couldn't get upstairs. But to hear he's on the mend and he plans to work next year if health permits. So kind of a sad story.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a big deal for him to do that. Grew up a Dodger fan as a kid, and then when they left, kind of shifted toward the Yankees, and then became, for the Yankees, 3 years their announcer with John, and then 20 years with the 20 years.
20, that's crazy. And everybody remembers him on ESPN.
Yeah. So send out good thoughts to him. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Goldberg and Merrick. Goldberg.
Gentlemen, always nice to speak to you. I just missed who you were talking about, Kay. Who were you just talking about?
Charlie Steiner.
With Silver.
Charlie Steiner.
Steiner. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, because couple of points, if you will. First of all, if I can. First of all, Kay, I don't think anybody's called yet and congratulated you on a great year.
Oh, thank you.
You're part of my Yankees.
I think some did. Go ahead.
Peter's a jerk, Goldberg. He really is.
Okay, you deserve it. You deserve all.
Thank you. What's up? You hung up on him? You hung up on him, did you, Peter?
We don't have access to that.
Technically, you do.
Yeah, we do, but I didn't.
I don't have it.
Why did you have to throw the wrench into his bicycle spoke? Why? Somebody did. No, somebody did.
Because
nobody said I had a great year.
Don, how many people
Nobody
called
said I had a great year.
Michael, you did such a great job this season. I've definitively
No, they say you do a great job. They never said this season. This guy went out of his way to say this season.
Don, don't you think we've had one of those post this season?
It doesn't matter. You derailed the call.
Goldberg, please call up. You do that with a lot of calls.
And do you think that was for better or for worse, based on what you heard?
Well, he had some interesting stuff to say.
I don't know. I mean,
and we'll never know, Don, because he Bigfooted it.
I'll probably err on the side of no, just because of the history.
Because of high?
Yeah, I don't think he was high, but I guess it's on the table. But you threw a wrench into a speeding bicycle.
It was speed. I don't know if it was speeding. It was more stumbling.
So I mean, this is macabre to me.
You love macabre.
No, I really don't like macabre. It scares me.
Your name could be Macabre K.
But the Cincinnati Reds next month,
okay,
are going to hold a public Pete Rose visitation at Great American Ballpark.
That's awesome.
But
his actual body?
He's been dead 3 weeks.
Well, his body's going to be there?
Yeah,
I don't think
that's what a visitation.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah.
An open casket. I mean, listen, they could do miracle stuff here. But
the visitation will be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on November 10th.
I'm sure it's just this casket, Michael.
But then it's not a visitation. I'm looking at a box.
Yeah, but what I like about it, obviously this would have been better a couple of weeks ago. I wish more teams would do that. Like Lions State at the stadium where they played, or where the home team. They did that with Maurice Richard up in Montreal. Like, if a great Yankee passed away, how great would it be to just have?
Well, they did it once with Babe Ruth.
Yeah, so it's cool. But I don't think, Michael, it's open. How can they preserve a body for 3 weeks?
You can do that. I mean, you see popes that have been preserved for centuries. If you go to the Vatican, you see that.
I don't think they've done the work to Pete.
How do we know? This is a 14-hour visitation for Pete Rose. A visitation means to me that there's a body in the casket.
No,
and the
because you have
casket
visitations for closed caskets. God forbid somebody dies where they can't open the casket. It's still considered a visitation. I can't imagine they've preserved him for 3 weeks that he's going to be able to be viewed in public like that. But it's still a viewing, Michael. I've been to plenty of wakes where the casket was closed. I still considered it a viewing. Don't you, Peter?
I'm not very good to ask about any of this stuff.
I'm sorry.
No.
He doesn't do death well. He never has.
That's that. Well, I don't know about that, but
I don't think anybody does it well.
Yeah, who loves death? But the Jews, we don't do the viewings and the open caskets and the things
I'm sure
of that nature.
You've had Christians die. You've been to wakes.
I hate everything open casket.
They're allowing a 14-hour visitation before the family lays him to rest privately. So he's going to be in that box.
What's the point? What's the point
If it's closed, what is the point?
Yeah, if it's open, it's a weird point.
What exactly is the point to it being open?
Right, that's what I'm saying. All of it.
He's not all just gawking at a body, but
he's not there.
I just think it's just the spirit of the thing. If you grew up a Pete Rose fan, you might want to go. I don't know, closure to certain people. I think the whole thing that we do is barbaric, to be honest with you.
With the body?
The body and what it does to the immediate family. You sit there in the front row and go through the worst day of your life with a bunch of people, and in this case, a bunch of strangers.
Well, in this case, it's so far removed, right? Wouldn't you rather just be like they do something, they run a video, and people celebrate him? Like,
but there are people that
make it a
find
funeral.
a sense of closure. I mean, listen, I go Christmas time, to visit my dad's grave at the graveyard, but he's with me all the time. It just seems barbaric to go and just see that he's not there. Right? Those when you die, you're gone. Your body's not where they are. So I just think the whole thing is, but people find closure in that. I'm good. My father said, we didn't even honor his wishes. So take me out with the trash.
Why wouldn't you listen to the guy?
Because we do everything in life because of the perception of what other people think. You're right.
So if you throw out with the trash, then you think people look down at you.
Well, they would in society, and I do think it's illegal, but that's not where they are anymore. It's not.
So the second they expire, they've gone.
No, I just feel bad for like the wife or the mom.
So it's awful.
You just sit there for hours.
It's an awful thing.
What are we doing? We can't come up with something better. Again, there was a time we made decisions, but we didn't think, and then we honor these things. We do it in sports all the time. I told you, did we think back in the day? Let's do the most barbaric thing humanly possible. Put the family through absolute torture. That's a great way to close out a life, isn't it?
Wow, Don going deep.
I love what he's saying.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Right now at Bay Ridge Honda, you can get great